Boom. All right, my man Will Young, we're live, bro. Hey, this is your first podcast, like
Yep.
ever, that you've done?
No, no,
No,
first podcast as a guest. Yeah.
you're first as a guest.
Yes.
Wow. Well, congratulations. Welcome to being a guest on your first podcast.
Thank you.
I'm honored that you chose mine for it to be.
Yeah. You came on mine, the Young Blooded podcast, so it was a fun time chatting with you, and that episode went crazy. So I figured it'd be, something I should do to kind of come back and help you out a little bit.
Well, hey man, I had a blast doing yours. I love being able to talk and tell my story. I'm usually the one asking questions, and I'm excited that you get to come on here. So we built a relationship up on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
I can't even remember how it began, to be honest with you, but probably just from mutual followings. It seems like we kind of like the same type stuff as far as the motivational, personal development, the business type material.
Gary
Um,
V. Yeah.
so I feel like we probably connect when it comes to that, and that's a whole thing, right? Like people have an interest in that. Like some people like sports, and some people like that. I like both, but I find myself in that community. Um, and then we had struck up a conversation. I got on your podcast and was happy to do it and enjoyed it. And now I wanted you to have on mine and kind of tell your story. And it's cool that this is the first time you're going to get to tell it as a guest. So, first of all, tell everybody how young you are.
Okay. Yeah. So right now I'm 25. I actually just turned 25 August 3rd. So that's the day
Yeah,
that I seem to change, years every year. So
that's when you rotate around the
yeah.
sun. That's
Yep.
cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I started, I guess, my career after college in 2020. So not the greatest time to start. But yeah, right after I graduated college, I kind of had a job lined up to become a salesman within like water softeners, water type products within residential houses, things like that. And the position got changed a little bit to like social media manager and salesman just due to COVID cuts and things like that. So I thought my job was going to get cut out, but I actually ended up getting kind of lucky and acquiring a new position. So although it didn't raise the pay because the company was kind of cutting down, I was able to just kind of start out my journey there in sales and enjoyed that a little bit, but didn't like the day to day there just because of the people I was around and things like that. I feel like I couldn't learn quite as much from them as I could from a bigger company. So I ended up after that internship had ended, kind of transferring over to TQL, Total Quality Logistics, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Had a great time over there, and then my brother at the time was working at a company called Ally Logistics, and so because he was enjoying the time over there and kind of was solving some of the frustrations I was having at TQL at Ally, I decided to jump ship and make the switch over after confirming the change with TQL and all of that. So we made that happen. And obviously, in logistics, it's pretty hard to switch companies without people kind of being upset, but it was actually a pretty quick, frictionless process. So that was pretty cool. Enjoyed some time at Ally, but then another wave of COVID came. And again, the COVID hits caused me to actually lose my job there at Ally. So that was kind of tough. Was in a pickle and I didn't really know what I was trying to do. However, I had come across a lot of the content we were talking about, Gary V, entrepreneur type stuff. And my family has had a few entrepreneurs in it. So I'd had some experience in the arena and I figured why not try my hand in it. I had done landscaping quite a bit in the summers in between college. So that really helped me kind of get a grasp for what industry I was looking to get into and kind of the work and the equipment and all of that. But I didn't know where or what or how to make money and what the business plan was going to be. So I spent a few months while working at another sales company to kind of plan that out. And then after my plan was ready and I had enough money saved up, I went ahead and moved down to Temple, Texas, which is about 45 minutes north of Austin. And the reason I chose that city was because it was a growing, like a growing economy and city, just like everywhere in Texas right now. But because it wasn't directly in Austin, it was low enough competition for me to enter a market at like a low cost, right? So I was able to kind of use a push mower, weed eater, and blower, a really small set of equipment to start my company, Mindful Mowers, down there. And that was, I would say, 2022 in August. Or no, sorry, 2021 in August. Correct. Yeah. So 2021 in August was when we moved down to Temple. Me and a couple other buddies, they were doing other stuff. And I was doing Mindful Mowers, kept that running, and then did that for a full year. So 2022 August came just recently. And I actually sold the company because of issues I was having with the industry. Didn't really like kind of where the progression of the company was going within the industry. I had no problems with the company and how I was running things. However, I just kind of noticed within the industry there are certain problems, and within the just like blue collar as a whole, there's just like certain issues that I can't really avoid. So I was like, well, how do I make the pivot but still enjoy my day to day. And I figured, why not move back up to the Midwest and see how I liked it there, just since that's where I came from college and all of that. And that's where I grew up. So I figured kind of head back up to the Midwest and dip my foot into personal training, since I've been working out pretty much my whole life and played several sports throughout high school and college. So enjoyed that a lot and figured, well, I already have some experience in this arena. So I went ahead and I'm working on my certification right now for personal training. And then I'll be able to kind of take on clients and start to make that pivot into that business as opposed to lawn care. But that's the whole gist of things. And yeah.
So are you doing lawn care right now while you're in Wisconsin?
No, so it's a little colder here. Obviously, now we're getting to those winter months. But the reason, again, while I was in Temple, was because you have that 9-month mowing season as opposed to the 3 or 4. So it made it a lot easier to grow and gain quite a few customers there.
No, that's smart. I didn't even think about that. Oh, cool. So personal training, huh?
Yeah.
That's always been something very close to me. I probably spent more hours from the time I was 14. Dude, I mean, I even watch it now, but like probably 14 to 26,
Yeah.
the amount of hours and time I spent studying like different ways to work out and nutritions and trying different fad diets and different biohacking and
Yeah.
every different thing you could possibly do besides work. It seemed like.
Yeah.
I tried it all, man, and I've had good experiences with a lot of them. I've always worked out. I started working out when I was real young, but with college football and stuff, I just stayed at it, and then I just stayed at it after school when I got into pro wrestling, and now I just continue to kind of stay at it. Not at the level that I used to, by no means, as far as strength and stuff, but just being consistent and getting in there. That keeps a lot of guys away from having to keep a personal trainer. But for the people that get off the wagon, the people that take a few years off from working out, which is really hard to get back in a good routine after you take a couple of years off, even a couple of weeks or a couple of months, even for a person like me. Personal trainers are huge, and that's a great industry to jump into. What's your strategy? So you're doing your personal training certification. What's the plan? Like, are you going to take on a few clients and give them meal preps and plans and to eat or work out? Or are you going to actually work out with these people? And if so, are you going to rent out a space? Do you have somewhere to do it? Kind of talk me through your process.
Yeah. So I haven't put a huge amount of strategy into the actual business plan yet. I've still been trying to structure where I'd like to fit in the fitness space, but a couple of those questions I feel like I can get after. So I started working on it maybe about a couple weeks ago. And so I figured, well, what is the niche that I would like to be inside the fitness space? And what is something that needs to be solved? Because that's equally as important as what you're good at, right? So what I was thinking is, right now the dad bod is sort of a thing that some people seem to like, and I've never really had a liking towards it. I've always thought it's kind of a cheap way to go about looking good, and I think that it's just like an excuse to be in some form of shape, even though it's not really shaped, right? You're just kind of
the new word for skinny fat,
Yeah,
much.
exactly. So I was like, well, I could attack that. I'm pretty passionate about removing the dad bod as a whole. So I figured that's kind of taking place into, I feel like younger, as per the name, younger dads, right? Like 30, 40 men. And so I figured if I could target that area and really focus on weight loss and building a solid nutrition plan, because I'm actually getting certified in nutrition and personal training. So I'd be able to kind of couple both of those. Thanks, Jordan. I'd be able to couple those with, themselves to be able to make a more comprehensive plan as opposed to just personal training or just nutrition, and then use those to kind of create a couple packages and then do an online only training. So my plan was to kind of have, and again, this is still work in progress. My plan was to kind of have a weekly check-in with a lot of these guys. And then a lot of the guys that in the 30 to 40 range, they know how to work out and they know how to self-discipline themselves enough to kind of get up and go work out. I've found if they want to, right? But like if they have the plan and the nutrition and the things set in place, and then I'm meeting with them to keep them accountable each week, I figured that would be a good way to kind of get started and set my ways in. But if you have, a tip for me that something I'm looking past, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, no, we can talk off camera. I'd be interested in learning more about your process and that. I've never had necessarily a personal trainer, but I believe in coaching. I believe in accountability, and a lot of times that's all it is. Like a lot of these Instagram guys, from what I can tell, and girls, when they do these nutritional programs, it's a very generic baseline program that they just cookie cutter give to somebody, maybe plug and play with a few numbers. Give these Well, you spend $100 a month or whatever, and all they do is check in with you once a week and say, "Hey, send me a progress picture." And then they look at your picture and go, "You're still looking a little fat there. Hey,
Yeah.
tone this up a little bit, or why don't you quit eating pizza? I know you like it." Like something like that. So it's really not that hard. Like if people would just understand that if you're like, but consider yourself the CEO of your body, and now you need to monitor the income that's going into like everything in and out of your body. Like if you monitor that, like you monitor the business.
Right.
It's pretty simple. Like
Yeah.
less calories in, move more, you're not gonna be fat.
Right. No,
It's
that's
literally impossible. It's literally impossible. Like you can't be fat if you don't eat a lot of food and you move a lot. You will not be fat.
Yeah, it's all about that calorie deficit, man. You can look at that, you can figure it out.
You can go keto, you can go bodybuilder, you can go vegan, any of them. Pick any diet, carnivore, you can try any of them. It's all just a way to get you to be in a calorie deficit by eliminating a certain type of food choice. And then people still overeat those things. Like I know for a fact you can overeat carnivore. Done it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, it's fat. Like you're eating fat and protein. You can definitely do that. One of my biggest tips for people, and sorry, this is like one of my passions. I love this stuff. Like
no, me too. That's why I'm getting into it.
So like a tip that I give to people that I think that is not often given this simple is this. Don't eat a fat and a carb at the exact same time.
I love it.
Always eat protein, but never mix protein with fat and carbs. Only mix protein with a fat or a carb. So if you're going to do chicken with your rice. Get your energy from your rice. Now, by the time that energy goes away, you want to go steak and you want to go salad, steak and greens, steak and veggies, something like that. Like don't do like grains with your fats. And what's a burger? A burger is all of that.
Yeah, it's kind of.
And what's everybody eat? Burgers. Like that's the problem. If we it's not eliminating carbs, eliminating sugar, eliminating all that stuff. It's just pick an energy source and use that energy source. Don't use both. You wouldn't use diesel and unleaded. You would just pick one.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And I know when we talked on my podcast, you were doing the 75 hard. I'm not sure if you're still doing that, but you talked about how. Oh, you are?
I finished it.
Oh, you finised it, right? Okay.
Yeah,
cool. And you said you were going to maybe keep going after it was done because you saw there's so much productivity, right? Or did you stop?
Yeah, no. So I didn't keep doing the 75 hard as in like doing the daily tasks and like taking the picture and doing all the stuff that you had to do for the challenge.
Right.
The things that I picked up on that I really enjoy, walking. I never knew I loved walking so much, and that it's kind of mandatory. Like it's a non-negotiable for me at this point, almost.
Nice.
The working out, I don't do it every day now, but I try to at least work out 5 days a week. I should definitely drink more water. I feel better when I drink water, but I don't drink the gallon of water every day.
Right.
But for the most part, I'm keeping most of the habits. But the biggest habit that I would give advice to anybody is 10,000 steps a day. I'm telling you, that is like. Now I might be getting older. Yeah, I'm 31 now, man. I'm preaching the old stuff, but 10,000 steps a day, that seems to be my favorite part of my routine. So now what I'm doing, if I don't do 10,000 steps, I can't work out. I won't let myself lift weights unless I've walked 10,000 steps, which is only 90 minutes. Yeah. So I've been trying to wake up early and get it in, but if I don't, I'll go walk at lunch and then I'll work out at night, or I just won't work out that night. I'll just get my walk. But I'm just kind of 1,000 steps.
Oh, for sure. And I think that walking's underrated too, just because oftentimes it's done outside, and that outside time, especially nowadays with how much screens and how much we are indoors, and in like places like the Midwest, you just kind of tend to stay indoors through the winter months. Getting that outdoor time is key. Like being in front of the sun, and like I've been listening to a lot of the Alex Huberman podcast lately, and he actually talks a lot about, or I don't know if his first name's Alex, it's just Huberman maybe, but anyway, so he talks a lot about being under the sun and making sure that that's really recharging you each day, because it gives you a lot of just general health benefits. And I'm not sure each specific one, but I know that there are quite a few that happen if you get 60 to 90 minutes under the sun each day, for sure. Yeah, that was a big difference too. During the summer, or when we spoke, I was making sure I took my shirt off when I walked so I can get as much vitamin D as possible. Now it's a little cold, so I'm going to keep my sweatshirt on. Yeah. There's some mornings my feet almost freeze, but other than that, pretty cool. No, yeah, for sure. And I just think that it's the consistency part is important. Like you said, it's a non-negotiable for you. A lot of times I feel like you may go through the day, and if you are having kind of a lower energy day, you're still like, okay, I got to get this walk in, and then I got to get my workout in afterwards. And it's probably like a starter for you, I'd assume, right? To kind of get you going.
Dude, so I tell people it's better than a cup of coffee, and I'm being dead serious when I say that. I love energy drinks too. So like at 12 o'clock today, I had a call at 1, and then I
Mhm.
knew I had this at 2. So at 12, I went for a walk. I went for a walk for 55 minutes, jumped on my call, kept the walk, got here, and here I am. I'm more
Nice.
energetic at this point in the day, which is at 2 o'clock my time. More energetic at 2 o'clock than I was this morning at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I walked this morning. Now, when I go walk in the mornings and I come home, I fix breakfast, I'm getting clothes ready, I'm out the door, kid at school, I'm at work, I'm ready to roll at 9 o'clock in the office.
Hmm.
There's a difference when I don't walk and when I do, but there's not much of a difference when I don't work out and when I do.
I
When I work
see.
out, it's a quick endorphin release and I feel good and got the pump and everything, but the pump goes away. And the pump
Mm,
usually goes away by the time you get to the office.
yeah.
So the endorphins kind of go away with the pump. It's something with the walk. I
It's
don't
like a
know if
warm up or what?
I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't know what it is. It's something with the walk. I
Yeah.
just and I can't find the science behind it. I can't find I see there's a bunch of people out there that enjoy it, but I'm talking about walking now more than I talk about anything. And that
Mm,
that blows my mind because
yeah.
I'm a guy who used to be like, dude, lift heavy things, do a lot of reps,
Yeah.
run, eat right, do this, do that. It's walking. Eat
Mm,
what you want to and walk and
yeah.
work.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I just because I am so new to the fitness space, and we can talk about it for as long as you'd like, but if you had any questions, regarding my time with the lawn mowing company, I do feel a lot more experienced in that arena and be able to speak with a lot more professionalism on that kind of stuff. So I
Okay.
mean, we can talk about fitness as long as you'd like, but if
Just
your viewers are looking to hear more informed content, I would be able to do that within lawn care
dude, at
elements.
this point, like I literally
Yeah.
right when I start talking about it, like we could be talking for 2 hours about working out. Anyway, so we'll get off
Okay.
of
Yeah.
that. So,
Mm,
but so back to the lawn mowing company, or not just lawn mowing, but in what you're coming up with.
yeah.
How successful were you with the lawnmower business? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you were down there what for 9 months?
Yeah, so I was on there for actually like a full year. So it was from August to August, which isn't really ideal for the mowing season. That actually starts February and goes until November if you get lucky. But there is a dry spout in there, typically around August time. So that's kind of when I was showing up the very first time in Texas was during this dry spell, which gave me a little bit of time to kind of get the business strategy built within the actual day to day before I started taking on a bunch of customers. But as soon as I started just stockpiling on content and making a bunch each week and releasing on Nextdoor, LinkedIn, and Facebook, LinkedIn was more so just kind of keep my people updated on LinkedIn because I like it. But Facebook and Nextdoor were my main two to acquire customers. Once I started pumping out content on there, 2 or 3 months in, it was kind of just off to the races with the customers. I was getting quite a few, maybe 1 to 2 a day when I first started out in January, February. After doing that throughout the off season, right, to kind of build the brand. Um, and then in January, February, it's still warm in Texas, and people are starting to see like, okay, I need to get quotes in, things like that, because everyone's posting about it. So me included. So I was starting to get those 1 to 2 leads a day. And then after February hit, I had taken on I went from like 7 or so customers from the off season up to around 20. And then once March hit was when pretty much the leads doubled. So it was like 3 or 4 a day that I was getting like inbound calls from these social media leads. Cause like there's just so many people moving to Texas, which was kind of the plan with the business strategy to kind of
Mhm.
capitalize on this, economy gain within, the smaller cities around Texas. So Temple. But anyway, as they were calling, I was noticing like, okay, this is kind of working, and the videos are working a lot better than the photos and things like that. So I started to just post video content around 30 seconds, like a TikTok type video on Facebook and Nextdoor, like I was saying, and I just hit 1 to 2 of those a day in all of March and all of April. And whether they're the same ones or not, I would just kind of keep those promotions running, right? And then that actually kept keeping the leads going up to 5 or 6 leads per day, which was pretty sweet because as as logistics, like kind of creating those leads through cold calls or like other situations is pretty tough. But when you get like someone calling, hey, can you quote me on my lawn 5 to 6 times a day, like you're going to close most of them, right? So an inbound lead's pretty gold. And since I was getting so many of those, I was able to just kind of grow that customer base up to around, I think we ended up being at 40 bi-weekly. So it would be 80 total customers. And that's when I had to take on an extra guy and then a part-timer as well to kind of help handle all of that. But yeah, I mean, it grew pretty huge. And then I was able to sell when I was at that 80 customers in August, 12 years later.
Wow. So what is I guess, how would you look at this when you're looking at a lawn care business? I've never done that. I never did that when I was in high school or college. I
Mhm.
wish I would have. I almost want to do it just
A
for
lot of
fun.
people do it as a side hustle, like you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, just want to, yeah. So what's the average yard cost? Like,
Okay.
what's the average mow?
So it's different depending on like how nice the area is because some like obviously some of the nicer houses have like bigger yards and more hills and things like that. But with a typical residential area in Temple, Texas, I was finding around 45 to $50 was what I was charging. And then after I started to take on more customers and bring on an employee, I actually raised my rates because that was when the gas prices started to go up as well.
Okay.
And mowers are all gas, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So about $50 yard. How many yards were you able to do in a day?
Me personally, like a typical day when I was loading up, I would knock out around 8, but if I was really gunning for it, I could do anywhere from 12 to 14. With that just push mower and blower and weed eater. So just like really cheap equipment, like $400 or $500 worth of startup. So
Yeah. So I mean, you pretty much paid for your equipment in one day, and then everything after that was profit.
after things got going, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Exactly.
it was a slow start, like I said, because I started at the end of the first regular season in
Right.
2021 August. So it took a while, but I ended up being there for around, 1.5 seasons just because of the way it was laid out.
So the most yards you mowed in one day was 14.
Yeah, I actually did 14 in one day, which was a pretty big day. And that was a part of my biggest week ever, which was the first time I had made anywhere close to this. But it was like my first time having a big week, and it was a $2,700 week. And I was like, wow, this is not just mowing lawns anymore. Like this is a real thing now. And that's when I started to think about employees and things like that. But that was probably one of my most exciting times of my life. Honestly, was when I racked in close to a 3K week. So
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
really cool. So how long would it take you roughly to mow one of those yards? And these, I'm assuming these are like what, quarter acre yards?
Yeah, we're looking at around 5,000 square feet for around $40. So that would be take me anywhere from with the drive time maybe 45 to 50 minutes. So I'd like to schedule it where it was like 5 to 10 minutes to the next house if I could, right? Some houses are just too far. But
Yeah.
if you can align the routes right, a lot of times you can get it within that 5 to 10 minute range. And then on top of that, I was able to mow the lawns within, I don't know, 30, 35, 40 minutes tops. So depending on how big it was, if it's that $50 lawn, I would be able to mow it in 40 minutes, then 10-minute drive max. So under an hour, I'd like to get to that next house and get started already. And that way I could rack in those 12 to 14-hour days.
Dude. So did you ever keep up with how many miles you walked?
Yeah.
When
So I
you,
had the Apple Watch on most of it. And
yeah,
I mean, they were 30, 40,000 steps, in a day, a lot of times.
no way.
Because I'd have to run with my dog afterwards. So, he was a husky, and he's a purebred. So he was all like hyped up, when I got home from those long days. And I was like, man, I got to get him out. Otherwise, it's unfair to him. So I'd go ahead and go on a run, maybe a mile or two. So yeah, it ended up being 30 or 40K steps.
Dude, that's wild. I don't think people realize how many steps that is, considering that most people listening to this, if you have a desk job or something, you probably walk like 2,000 steps a day. Like if you
Honestly.
don't work out, you're not active, you're not consciously doing it. You probably walk about 2,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
Um, but even me, like, and I'm not active. Like have a desk job, but like I'm not active. I was only averaging like 4 to 5,000, not even 5,000, like 4,000 steps per day prior to the 75-day challenge. When
Mm.
I like made it like a conscious like thing that I was checking every day, and I was like, oh wow, now I'm averaging over 10,000. It's wild.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. Like,
No, yeah, I think the one of the ways I started training for it was like using a standing desk and going on those super long walks that you were talking about. Cause like I honestly in the off season before I started, I was like, I know I'm gonna have to be walking way more than like even the usual lawnmower because I have a push mower as opposed to like the stand on, right? So I was able to kind of just start training and I was actually running a bunch, doing a bunch of walks and standing while I was on my computer to kind of get my legs prepped for that season because I knew how tough it was going to be. So
wow. So how much money do you think a person could make if they kept that schedule up in lawn care?
right. So just a one person schedule if you're going for like a solopreneur vibe, which is what I was planning on doing for the entire first year. I had scheduled it out and not with just those $2,700 weeks, but like all the weeks included, including the startup ones that are a little lower because you have less customers. You can pull in your first year anywhere from like 50 to 60 pretty easily. I was on pace because of the nice economy to take advantage of around 70 to 80. Now in August when I sold, I had an employee and we had raised things up a little bit. So I had more expenses, but I was kind of growing to scale at that point.
Mhm.
But either way, I was grossing around 70 to 80 that first year. Yeah.
Now, were you talking about lawn care being the industry that has the issues that no matter how much you continue to scale, you're going to continue to have, or did you just jump out of that to jump in a person? Like, what is the issue?
Okay, so the issue was, and this is not like a knock on blue collar guys at all, because I like a large portion of my life was growing up working in landscaping, construction, stuff like that. And
Yeah,
so I've spent a lot of time with blue collar guys. And I guess I should start out by saying they're just some of the most hardworking people you can ever meet because like they're up at like 4 or 5 a.m. every day to go like build buildings and like put electricity into houses and like all this crazy stuff, right? That normal people don't even think about that have these type of desk jobs that you're talking about.
sure.
So they're really hard workers. But given that as well, they're also so focused on the work that sometimes it's hard to work with them from like a human resources standpoint, right? So and that's what I had to do given that I was the CEO. I wasn't just mowing lawns, right? I was doing all the admin work, marketing, sales, accounting, all of that. But the HR was actually one of the hardest things because I only had two employees and I hired them myself and went through the whole process and vetted them through other lawn care guys that they had worked for and things like that. And even then it was just really, really hard to manage them and do it the right way. And I just felt like I was doing them a disservice because I just didn't have that experience and that leadership yet. So I thought to myself, like, I can keep doing this and I can get better at it and grow throughout this process. But is that something I really want to do? So I kind of looked at it and I was like, what's next year going to look like? Well, I'm probably gonna have to bring on a guy and two extra. Going to start to ramp up over the off season and get better gear and equipment like that. And what's that going to cost and things like that. So I started to kind of figure all that out. And within those built-in processes, I was like, well, I could either keep doing this, invest a large amount of money into the two things keep going, exercising, hard work. Nice. I could invest a large amount of money into this process and change and then hire in a new employee and continue to reinvest to grow to scale. Or I can take kind of this big money that I've had right now and switch industries if that's something I really want to do. Because honestly, it had been on my mind for the past month or two going into that August month. And then the drought hit, right? So we lost maybe like half of our customers. Hey, we're just going to switch from biweekly to monthly now and all of that kind of stuff. So it really, really started to lower. And I was like, man, this is all out of my control. So I was like, and I was like, on top of that, I have to stay here in Texas to run this company no matter what. I'll never be able to leave, right? So I wouldn't be able to travel at all. So I was thinking, well, what are my priorities? What are the things I really like? And fitness ended up aligning with a lot of those. So I ended up making that switch.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. So your plan is to kind of implement the same strategy you had with the lawn care business with the fitness industry.
Exactly. So like I said, I'm still in that the training process right now, like doing all of the quizzes and exams and all of that to become a certified trainer and nutritionist. But after that's completed, I would like to implement a similar process where I do 30-second to a minute videos promoting my content and making promotions for the business, which I actually haven't come up with the name yet. So if we wanted to come up with one, I'd be pumped to do that as well. But anyway, so getting that going and then being able to make that same content to grow the customers in a similar way. But actually, since it is exclusively online and through that coaching program, I'm going to be able to scale a little bit easier and kind of keep it within my own reins as opposed to bringing on another guy, at least for the first year.
Do you watch a lot of Alex and Layla Hormozy stuff?
Yeah, I really enjoy their stuff. So I've been learning a lot about their stuff to kind of figure out the personal training realm.
Have you looked at Kel Owen at all? So
Cale Owen. So yeah, I had him on my podcast actually.
Awesome, really cool.
Cale Owen. I saw he came on yours too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he did. Kel's really cool.
He's awesome.
Really cool dude. Yeah, I would pick his brain as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, he said after I get that certification done and I start to take on clients, he said to reach back out to him and we could do a phone call off the air. And that's like beyond valuable. Like I understand how, well, I don't, but I hope to understand how valuable that can be once I to give him a call.
Yeah, man. No, that'd be really cool. Well, dude, I wish you all nothing but the best and all the success.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing the stuff come out. Are you going to be posting some of that on LinkedIn as well?
Yeah.
The money's on LinkedIn, man. But that's where, I mean, it's on Facebook and stuff too. But like getting these guys that are, executives or whatever, or all these people in the logistics space that, might not want to go to the gym. They might just want to get some advice from somebody online. This would be a great place to do it for sure.
Oh, for sure. And I guess what I meant to say is I'm going to do this 30 to 60 second video still, but I was planning on kind of switching platforms and actually going more over to like an Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook type model, maybe even TikTok as well. Yeah. Cause I know the way that you can grow on those is based off of like what people are interested in, and it exposes a lot more virality. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. The algorithms of those things are crazy. It's
Yeah,
just it's
and
so wild.
understanding those, I think, is a really fun part of learning about everything. Like you can kind of always be doing research on that algorithm. It's ever changing. So
Yeah, it is average. And like honestly, whatever you're able to see, that's what it's pushing. So that's
mm,
what the next trend is. And you with hashtags, you can see what the next trend's going to be.
yeah.
It's the one that's right there on the edge, the one that's close. You know,
Oh, for sure.
that's the next
Yeah.
one.
No, yeah, and I think that within personal training too, like I kind of like to think that I'm knowledgeable about this because of the mindful mowers and positioning myself into a good market there in Temple. But I really think the fitness industry is just going to explode here. Like, I mean, it has been, right. It's been growing, and a rising tide raises all ships, I think is what Cale Owen said. But anyway, either way, I think that's really going to help as I begin the journey here, is because there's so many more people kind of looking into that realm, and they understand how much it's going to actually help in the long term, right? Like if you're physically healthy and physically fit, you actually ended up living longer anyway. So even if you don't enjoy working out, like a lot of people, like I know Gary Vee said this specifically, he just doesn't like it, but he knows it's of how important it is. And if he wants to live as long as he says, he's always like, I'm going to live forever, or whatever. Then
Yeah.
like he needs to do it. So even though he doesn't enjoy it to this day, he still has a personal trainer. He pays around 60, 70K a year just to make sure that it happens, by employing a guy. So I think that should be a reminder to everybody how important fitness is.
Yeah, no, it should, and that reminds me. So you look at a lot of these new CEOs and these big, billionaires. These
Mhm.
guys are getting in good shape. Like you look at a guy like Jeff Bezos. Like you look at Bezos from 1996, and you look at Bezos from 2022.
Yeah.
Homie's jacked.
Yeah,
Like
he's huge
Bezos,
now. Yeah.
yeah, he looks good, man. And a lot of those guys are starting to do that, and I think that it's due to the hormone replacements and the TRTs and
Mm,
optimizing and anti-aging and longevity. All this stuff starting to become a real thing. It's becoming mainstream,
mm,
and it's been in the biohacking world for the past 20 years. So
mhm.
guys like us that research that type of stuff, we've been knowing about this, and it's like, why is the mainstream just now learning about
Yeah.
hormone replacements and all this stuff? But it's a thing.
Oh,
And
for sure.
the guy like Bezos, he just invested into Atlas Labs. Don't know if you know what Atlas Labs is.
I
You
don't.
should look up Atlas Labs. Atlas Labs is going to be one of the first like legit anti-aging companies, and they're
Mm,
going and putting all the science into it, trying to come up with some devices and stuff. My conspiracy mind tells me that Bezos is going into anti-aging with the human body, and Elon is trying to create a technology to combine the the digital world with the real world, and they're going to see how long humans can actually live and almost cyborg these things.
mm.
Neuralink and anti-aging
Yeah.
coming at the same time by the two of the richest people on the planet who are in the same space, competing in the same industries. I think they're actually working together.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thought. I didn't even think about those 2 being aligned, but yeah, that would make sense. I mean, the longer you can live, and then also being able to have that Neuralink and be able to capitalize on the time that you are having, I mean, that's definitely gonna go hand in hand for sure.
Well, I heard Elon say, he goes, Neuralink is going to be one of those things that you can't really put a price on because as soon as you have it, you're going to be able to make as much as you want.
Yeah.
So, how
No, for
much is
sure.
that worth?
Yeah.
It's literally priceless. So, we'll see, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. And some of my friends had asked me that when we were doing research on Neuralink, like, would you do it if it was available? And
Yes.
obviously, you have to wait until there's some testing and
Yeah.
the moral things are corrected and all of that. But yeah, man, I mean, obviously, I would do it. Like, if you didn't do it, you would do yourself as a business person or as a career person, whatever, a disservice just because of
Yeah.
your lack of it. It'd be like trying to drink every night before you get up and do work every day as opposed to not. I feel like it would be like a comparable, like how hard it is.
Here's a
Yeah.
would you give up everything you have to know that you could get it back and more?
Mm, it's a very good question.
Or are you willing to put in the work
I would
back
say, yeah.
when you
Yeah.
have the ability to?
If you're not a risk taker, get the hell out of business. That's been a screensaver on my phone for a really, really long time. So I've been trying to just kind of keep
Yeah.
that in my mind. Is risk taking is a part of business, and it's a part of growth. And more importantly, it should be a part of your career. And I think a lot of people don't look for it as much as they should.
No, I like that. Hey man, where can everybody find you? We know you got the
Mhm.
podcast. We know you got the LinkedIn. Where can everybody find you? Plug all your stuff, and we'll get you out
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So podcast is on all the major platforms. It's the Young Blooded Podcast, actually an entrepreneurship side hustle podcast. So the things that I've been doing in real life are correlated with what I talk about in the podcast, similar to Gunnar here. I think that's like kind of the Hormozy method, right? Is that he said, well, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, do cool shit and then talk about that shit. So that's
Yeah,
kind of what I've been trying to implement.
Talk about what other people do and how to
Yeah,
do it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So that way you're not one of those moguls that just kind of acts like he knows what he's talking about. So anyway, I've been trying to do that as best I can. And I follow that career along pretty well with the podcast. So that's going to be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. And then I'll promote those episodes on LinkedIn. I've been really trying to say to grow to those Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, but I haven't started those yet. And I'm sure I'll start those as soon as I begin the personal training as well. So personal training, like I said, haven't gotten quite started on that yet, but people can find me personally on that LinkedIn, and that's where I'm most active.
Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I hope this was fun. I hope everybody that listened and joined in grabbed some value. If you need personal training advice, hit my boy up over here. And we'll go from there, man. If you need anything, hit me up. And if you want to come back on later on down the road, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. And I love coming on here, being the first guest on your show. I had to pick yours before anybody else's, man. It's a good time talking to you, and I know that we have a lot in common with the logistics. And I wish you the best with WWE stuff as well. Side hustle is awesome.
I hope you knock it out. I appreciate it, bro.
All right.